time. It's time. It's time. You've been training. You've been preparing for this moment. You're ready, and you know it. It's time to get up. It's time to move forward. Your team needs you. They need you on the field. Now, it's time to fight. It's time to sound the alarm and wake up. It's time to get in the game. Because you cannot win from the stands. Get in the game. Our new sermon series this August.
Wow, okay, I'm on. Yes, thank you. I've got a lot of new whistles and bells going on for you online this morning, so I hope you're enjoying it. And for you in the building, I hope you're having a good Sunday so far. I just want to kind of reiterate what Chris prayed for earlier. There's been a lot of tragedy in our little community over the last week or 2 weeks. There's also been a lot of tragedy around the world. We're all very familiar with everything that's going on in Afghanistan. And we've had a lot of people, ask us, is Grady okay? If you don't know, our son's in the Marine Corps. And, well, I've got some bad news, good news. So which do you want first? So the bad news is his regiment, or he would have moved to another unit. They are being deployed to Afghanistan. The good news is my son will be home Friday for good. So, yeah, he's done. So he's, I don't know where he's at with that, but right now he's just trying to get his car to work so he can drive home. But yeah, he's been in for 4 years already, so his contract will be over in October. He's on terminal leave. He's got a lot of leave saved up, so he'll be home next week. But we need to pray for all of our military and the people of Afghanistan. It's a real tragedy that's happening there right now, humanitarian tragedy. Once again, these seem to happen like once a year. Something giant happens like that. So just keep them in your prayers. Keep a lot of our sons and daughters, moms and dads are going over there to help people evacuate. They're once again in harm's way, which they always are. But he will be home soon, so you may see him lurking around again, non-uniform. He will no longer be an active duty Marine. So we are in week 4 of a series called Get in the Game, and the premise around this series is that we can't get in on the gospel, we can't be a part of what God is doing in the world today unless we actually get involved. The gospel is a participatory event. We are saved by grace, which is absolutely free. We have been given forgiveness by what Jesus accomplished on the cross. It cost us absolutely nothing. But if we want to live the life that Jesus says, I come for you to live, we have to participate in the gospel. We have to get in the game. In fact, watching games is fun, but participating, playing the sport or playing the game is always where we find our sweet spot. We've all been created to participate in this gospel game. God created you for a reason. He made you specifically for something, to accomplish something within his redemptive arc. He calls you to be a part of the church. And we've talked about 3 things. They all begin with P over the last 3 weeks. We talked about, first of all, it should be fun to participate in the gospel, not humdrum and boring. It should be fun and exciting, so we need to play. John 10:10, Jesus says, I come so that you may have life to the fullest. So there must be some play involved, some fun involved. Week 2, we talked about practice. Because we all know we play like we what? Oh, you're getting better. We play like we practice. And so what we do as a church, when we worship, when we come together, when we meet, this is practice. This isn't the game. This is practice. But we practice here so we can play or we can participate effectively outside the walls of the church, outside of what we do once a week on a Sunday or another day of the week. And then last week we talked about pressure, an important part in forming us. No one likes pressure. No one's comfortable in pressure, but pressure creates diamonds, right? Pressure creates treasures. And we read that verse where we are just in jars of clay, right? The outside of us just busts off under pressure and reveals who we really are, who God created us to be. It creates the power of God. Pressure creates power. Pressure creates beauty. Pressure really defines and refines who we really are. Today we're going to talk about a topic that doesn't begin with P. It begins with D, and that's drive. Drive. In sports, there's a lot of talk about, especially, I listen to sports talk radio probably too much, but there's a lot of talk about athletes and if they're driven, and where does that drive come from? How do you motivate athletes? Should a coach have to motivate an athlete, or should it be an internal motivation? Should there be some kind of internal drive that an athlete that's playing in a sport should want to play at their highest level? And I would say that it plays out in our own lives, in our personal lives, as a parent, as somebody who works for a living, as somebody who's a Christian and is involved in the gospel. Do we have to be motivated to do that at the highest level possible? Or do we have some drive in us that gives us that drive to be all that God created us to be? It almost sounds like a commercial, doesn't it? To be that person God created you to be, there has to be some internal drive. There has to be something bubbling up inside of us. Real quickly, though, I think we have to, there's a difference between drive and being driven. A lot of times we are driven by things that aren't healthy. We're driven by things that drive us into the ground. And so we have to make sure that this internal drive to be the person God created us to be is not something that's driving us farther and farther away from God. A lot of people are driven by their jobs until they become workaholics, right? We're driven by sports until that's all we do is we participate in sports or we watch sports. So we have to be really careful about this word of drive. And we have to say it's going to apply to the gifts that God gave us and then our involvement in the gospel. Drive. There's some scriptures, we're going to look at Proverbs today quite a bit, that talk about the need for drive. Proverbs 16, verse 26. The appetite of the laborers work for them. Their hunger drives them on. So a lot of times drive is a hunger for more. You've probably all heard an athlete interviewed, professional athlete or a college athlete, that said, this is the reason I'm here today is because I grew up in poverty. Maybe I grew up with one parent. Maybe I grew up in a real rural area, and I wanted to get out. And so I was driven to become this world-class athlete. I would think we should be driven as followers of Jesus to become world-class Christians, to be all the people that God created us to be. And it calls from a hunger within us, a drive within us. And I think we all have it. I think we just have to tap into it. We just have to find that place where we're motivated to be that person. So Proverbs 26, interesting passage here. Proverbs 26, beginning in verse 13. He talks about, and this is again, the wisest man that ever lives, King Solomon in Proverbs. A sluggard says, there's a lion in the road, a fierce lion roaming the streets. A lot of times we don't accomplish what God created us to accomplish because we are really good at what? Making excuses, right? Oh, there's a lion out there, and it might eat me. I think the biggest enemy we have is ourselves and our own excuses why we can't get something done. And I think we're all familiar with excuses. I mean, I use them all the time. Just ask my wife, she's in the back. There's a lion in the street. I can't do that. I just can't do it. We just make a lot of excuses. We're afraid, right? I don't have enough money. I'm not educated. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm too busy. I'm not busy enough. I don't know enough. I mean, we can just kind of check off the list of why we're not motivated to live the life God created us to live. We'll make a million excuses. A sluggard says, there's a lion in the road, a fierce lion. Verse 14, as the door turns on its hinges, so a sluggard turns on his bed. Which I could say, amen. Well, this morning, I didn't want to get out of bed. I'm usually up fairly early, and today I just didn't want to get out of bed. And sometimes we just need to get out of bed. Months has been just carrying around a giant stone. And for many people, it's created just internal non-drive, or let's just stay in bed. I just can't take it anymore. And I realize there are some people that are suffering with mental illness and There's a lot of anxiety, depression, which causes people to not get out of bed. And I realize there is some of that at a level. But for most of us, it's just, we just begin making excuses. Let me just sleep a little more. I just can't get out of bed. I love that. As a door turns on its hinges, so a sluggard turns on his bed. You've all said that, right? I don't want to get up. But there's a difference between saying I don't want to get up and actually not getting up. As you know, I got up because I'm here today. So I didn't want to get up, but I did. Verse 15, a sluggard buries his hand in the dish, but he's too lazy to bring it back to his mouth. Wow. Anybody guilty of laziness? Yeah, I am. I get lazy, but that's just this. Just use that word picture the next time you feel lazy. I have my hand in the cookie dish, and I am so lazy. Can you just put it in my mouth for me? You know, again, I think it's just this internal drive. The wisest guy on earth said this: a sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 people who answer discreetly. Let me read that one for you again. A sluggard, I love the sluggard word, is wiser in his own eyes than 7 people who answer discreetly. Solomon says this, King Solomon, the wisest man in the scriptures, says this: if you are not a part of the solution, you are a part of the problem. The wisest man that ever lived is wiser in his own eyes than 7 people who answer discreetly. The world today has more people that point out problems than ever before, or at least we're aware of it. Because of social media, because of the media, because of mass media, because of anyone can sit behind a keyboard and tell you all the world's problems. But there are actually very few people doing anything about these problems. They just want to point them out. And if you're not a part of the solution to the problem, then you are actually the problem. Doesn't take much smarts. You don't even have to get out of bed anymore to point out problems. You can just pick up your phone and hit a few keys. But being a part of the solution takes a lot of energy. You can't make excuses. You definitely can't roll out of bed. So there's a lot of things going on. And I think the more time you have on your hands, so the lazier you become, the more you point out problems in the world. Does that make sense? Because you have time to sit around and look. Rather than being busy to do something, you just kind of sit there and point out the problems. You know, when we were in quarantine, it seemed like problems, because everybody was just sitting at home pointing out problems. That's all you had to do was point out problems. You know, big problem we have right now, especially in the United States, or at least in the area here, is there aren't enough people to work. You've all gone to a restaurant or a store or something, and help wanted. We need help. We were driving home last night, and we were pointing out signs, help wanted, because our son's going to be home. He needs a job. I'm like, there's a job for Grady, there's a job for Grady, there's a job for bus driver. We were laughing at that one. I could see my son driving a school bus. But a lot of just all you have to do is get out of bed, pull your hand out of the cookie jar, get a job. A lot of problems. Some of them can be solved by just getting out of bed. Serving, and we've asked you to serve here over the last few weeks. I'm going to ask you one more time. There's this rule known as the 80-20 rule. You know what the 80-20 rule is? It says 20% of the people do 80% of the work anywhere, in business, in church, in schools, wherever it is. I believe this has shifted to the 90-10 rule. I really do. I believe 10% of the people are now doing 90% of the work. And I know some of you serve, and you serve at a high level, and I love watching you serve. And not only inside the church, you serve outside the church. And so, I just want to let you know that you play like you practice. You play like you practice. And I just want to encourage you to serve here. And do we need you? Sure we do. We always can use volunteers. We can always use help. But there's a bigger means to this, right? Because we play like we practice. And so when we serve within the church, we develop skills to serve outside the church. So there's an easy way for you to get involved here. You can go to our website, cohmaricopa.com/serve. There's 5 or 6 different places you can click on there to serve on. You can also put your phone right over that QR code right up there in the right-hand corner, and that will take you right to that link. See any phones moving? There's also the QR code when you leave the door there. Leave out the door, just put it up there. There's actually a button that says, I don't know where I want to serve. Click on that one. We'll help you. We'll help you find a place you can serve. Because sometimes, again, I know what you're all saying. There's a lion in the road. I'm busy. I have kids. I got a job. COVID-19, blah, 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 blah. Just online, you can serve online. I ask people online. You don't even have to leave your house. You can serve online. I was thinking about this, Dave, when we were in the back. And we've got more tech running back there than we've ever had. We've added cameras and remote control. Some of this stuff you can do from home. You could serve on Sunday morning here, right here, and what's going on from home. Why am I looking at you? From home. You can do it from home. So just let us know. We'd love to have you serve here. Question for you. I love this. Opposite of drive. The opposite of drive. What's the opposite of stop? It's not a trick question. Go. Night. Day. Forward. Drive. Neutral. The opposite of drive is neutral. Now, if you're in neutral and you're actually moving, guess what? You're coasting. You're going downhill. When we shift into neutral, we can only go so far, and eventually we'll run out of gas. So here's some ways you can find your drive. Passion and determination. Passion, urgency, determination. You heard from Chris this morning, and he actually said the word. I didn't tell him what I was talking about today, nor did I cue him to say the word. But if you are looking for someone that has a passion for what they do, look no farther than Chris Leone. If you want to see someone who is passionate about what they do, hang out with Chris for a little while. This dude is passionate about this community. He's passionate about students. He's passionate about Jesus. He has a passion that drives him beyond what he probably should do. I think I told you a couple weeks ago, we were talking about, I was kind of going through my staff and like, well, here's some things I'd like to see you do better. And what I told Chris was, dude, you need to slow down. Because I know you're going good now, but you're only 40. You got to put some in the tank because there's a long road. But he is passionate about what he does. You can follow him around. So what are you passionate about? Here, I just Googled these. You can Google them. How do you find your passion? I think I found 9 things here. The first is this. Is there something you already are doing you love to do? What do I love to do? Believe it or not, you can actually get in the gospel and do what you love. Yeah, you can. Find something you love to do. What do you like to read about? Anything? Or watch videos about? Maybe you don't read anymore. I don't know. What do you like to read about? Brainstorm it. If you've never thought about, what am I passionate about? Maybe you just kind of write some things down or set with some people. Ask around. Ask others, do you think I'm passionate? What do you think my passion is? If you find what you're passionate about, here's a good one. Don't quit your day job yet. When we started Community of Hope Church back in 2005, I was working in the agriculture industry, and we decided to start in September. Our 16-year anniversary is next month. We were going to start the church, and a lot of people said, well, are you going to quit your job? And I was like, no, because this thing might be over in 2 months. So I kept my job through the end of the year. I actually kept my real job until God showed he was faithful to me. I had a lot of faith, didn't I? Yeah. So anyways, don't quit your job. Give it a try, right? If you think you're passionate about something and you think you can be involved in something and you can bring the gospel into it, you can get involved, give it a try. Do as much research as possible. Number 8, practice. Because you play like you practice. Maybe there's something out there, and I want to find my passion. Practice it. See if you can do it. That's why we have a button on Serve that says, I don't know. Brandon is meeting here on Wednesday nights. Brandon, what time? 6 o'clock. So if you think, I might have a passion for what we do on a Sunday morning. And it doesn't even have to be singing or playing music. Maybe it can be, you saw Dave run up here and adjust cameras, and we got 3 or 4 people back there running things. There's a tech side of it. There's an AV side of it. You can come now at 6 o'clock on Wednesdays and just practice. And if you're no good, well, Brandon will tell you to leave. He won't. He won't do that. He'll coach you up. He will get you in the game. So the first is passion. The second is urgency. Urgency, an important requiring swift action, an earnest and persistent quality. Passion without urgency can lead us to shifting into neutral and just staying there. A lot of people go, I'm really passionate about that. I'm really passionate about that. But there's no urgency to get in the game. I just want to talk about it and explore it and read about it and talk to people about it. I really love to do that. I really love to do that. I really love to do that. But without urgency, you can't find drive. That's where pressure comes in. For many of us, pressure applied drives our urgency. It makes us urgent to do what God created us to do. A lot of us need pressure. I need pressure. I'm one of those people that need pressure. I was thinking about that this week. I'm an Enneagram 7. We actually went through the Enneagram a couple years ago. If you don't know what that is, it's pretty cool. But I'm a 7. So this is a definition of my personality type, and that's what it is. I'm an extroverted, optimist, versatile, spontaneous, playful, high-spirited, practical. I can also misapply my talents, becoming overextended, scattered, and undisciplined. Doesn't sound like much of a person, does it? Constantly seeking new exciting experiences, but can become distracted and exhausted by staying on the go. Have problems with impatience and impulsiveness, yes. Focus their talents on worthwhile goals, becoming appreciative, joyful, joyous, and satisfied. We are the people that throw a party, but don't send out the invites and don't buy anything for the party. We're just excited about the party. So I have a lot of passion about that. But without urgency and usually without pressure, I don't get it done. So this is interesting. So I am a 7 wing 8. You probably don't know what that means. But anyway, so under pressure, under stress, under duress, I shift from this 7 personality to an 8, which is actually the opposite of a 7. And that's why some of you are very confused about me on occasion. Because I move from this, hey, laissez-faire, let's have a party, we don't even know how we're going to get it done, to like, what happened? Did you turn into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? What happened to you? Why are you so in my face? Why are you being like that? Because I turn into an 8. Because I need to get things done. I'm driven by urgency. 8s, on the other hand, self-confident, strong, assertive. It's almost the opposite of a 7. Protective, resourceful, straight thinking, decisive, can be egocentric and domineering. That's one of the bad things. They must control their environment, especially people, sometimes becoming confrontational and intimidating, the opposite of a 7 who just goes, whatever. When I'm driven, when I'm under pressure, okay, when pressure applied, and I'm feeling the need to be driven for more, I turn into something 8. I typically have problems with tempers, allowing themselves to be vulnerable at their best, self-mastering, the user's strength to improve others' lives, becoming heroic pressure on our lives to push us urgently to find our passion. Aren't wired like me. We never get anything done. But, however you're wired, under pressure, the urgency will kick in. And you will move to this other personality that causes you to do what you need to do. I'm a 7 and we planted a church. I don't even know how we did that. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but a lot of it has to do with who's around you. Proverbs 13:4, the sluggard craves and gets nothing, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. The lazy craves and gets nothing, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. Sometimes you just got to put it in gear and go. It doesn't mean you're going to succeed. It doesn't mean everything's going to be great. In fact, last week we talked about pressure. Usually the higher you move into who God created you to be, the higher the pressure. The more involved you are, the higher the pressure. But that's okay, because pressure produces power. We understand that it's God in it, not me. And when you partner with others, and I think this is the important thing, passion, you got to find people around you to help kind of move you and then curtail you. Lisa, who's sitting in the back, is a 1 on the Enneagram. And she's the person that all the details, right? Crosses every T, dots every I, doesn't want to see anything out of place. I don't really care. Male, female, but it has a lot to do with how we're wired up. Proverbs 15:19, the path of the sluggard is blocked with thorns. The way of the righteous is like a level highway. When you find your passion and you start to move in it, the doors, they won't always be open, but they will open more. Things will begin to open. You'll begin to say, hey, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. When I went into full-time ministry, I took baby steps, and I remember somebody telling me early on, before I became a pastor, you should go in full-time ministry. I laughed in their face. Like, I don't think I need to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't know how to do that. But as I begin to go down that road, I begin to find more drive, and the road began to open up a little bit wider, a little bit wider. When we're driven the road down the right road, by the way, the road gets wider. I am driven by vision. I'm a very visionary person. That's kind of how God made me. But I spent probably the first 35 years of my life making excuses, sleeping in, because I liked it, right? I just thought, maybe there is no use for me in this life. So don't think God can't use you no matter how old you are, where you're at in your life. He'll sneak in there and he'll open the door and boom. I love what I do. And I've been doing this for over 16 years. I love doing this. And I hope this is what God called me to do, because I'm just about done. I got good news. The apex of your life, the crescendo of your life is before you. A lot of times we think, it's as good as it's ever going to be. Isn't there a country song about I'm as good as I once was? The apex of your life is before you. It's out there in the future. God's not done with you yet. If you'll find some drive, some internal drive, if you practice, right? If you'll apply, let the pressure applied in the right places, you'll have fun and you'll find what God created you to do. You'll participate in the gospel like you've never participated before, and you will have more fun, and you will have more joy, and you will find more pleasure than you've ever found before. It's out there. It's before you. I believe that about this church. I believe Community of Hope Church. I believe we're kind of in a season, and some of this is due to COVID, and some of it's due to my age, and some of it's due to our age as a church. We find ourselves, a bell curve, you're familiar with the bell curve in any business or any organization, you kind of start here and then you go up and then, you fall over. And we've kind of gone to the top and we're beginning to kind of move in this season. They call it, I like to use the word maintenance rather than decline, because decline sounds like it's over. Maintenance season. And I'm so excited about the next season of life for Community of Hope Church. And the reason I am is because of this team we have over here, because of Chris Leone, and because of Sam, and because of Marcus, and because of Lisa and Sarah. Last week we had our little newcomers lunch, our Pizza with the Pastors, and during that lunch we asked our staff to introduce themselves and then tell a bit about themselves, family, that. So beautiful to listen to our staff talk about what they are doing in the community. They are doing contextual ministry. They are out there doing ministry. Well, I thought they were on staff here. They are. They practice here. And they do it out there. This church is in some great hands, in some really, really strong leaders, young, motivated, driven, passionate, urgent leaders. And I believe the apex of Community of Hope Church is still in the future. I believe this church is going to continue to do great things in this community. It has for the last 16 years. I just feel like it's going places it's never gone before, because we have people that we've never had before, including you, by the way. We have a group of people that understand the gospel and are motivated by that. So Proverbs says a lot about being the sluggard, and that's the Old Testament. It's King Solomon. Is there anything in the New Testament that says it? There is, by the way. Paul in Colossians 3:23 says this. He tells Christians, he tells followers of Jesus, work with all your heart as working for the Lord. Everything you do, work with all your heart as you are working for the Lord. Be driven. What you do matters. Jesus took drive very, very seriously. Jesus, in the parable of the bags of gold, Matthew 25:14, I'm going to read the whole thing. You're probably familiar with it. Jesus says, again, he's talking about the kingdom of God. Be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2, to another 1, each according to his ability. So he didn't give them all the same, right? To the person who he thought could do a lot, he gave a lot. To the person he thought could do in the medium, and then to the person he thought could do little, he gave that each according. So then he went on his journey, and the man who received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work, gained 5 bags. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2. But the man who had received 1 bag dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of the servants returned and settled the accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. I have gained you 5 more. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. So he ups it for him, right? You're going to be way up here now. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came, and he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. I have gained 2 more. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many. Come and share your master's happiness. And harvesting where you have not sown and gathered where you have not scattered. So you wicked and lazy servant. Now he's talking about God the Father, I have to believe. You wicked and lazy servant. You knew that I harvested where I had not sown and gathered where I have not scattered seed. Well then you on to take the bag of gold from